My name is Nikola Simpson, and why am I here speaking with you all about this? How come it is that any time the word plastic comes up in a sentence in Barbados, there's a high chance that my name also comes up? I am a marine biologist and natural resource and environmental manager by profession, thanks to CERMUSE. And depending on who you speak to and the project that I'm working on, I can be referred to as a whale, turtle, shark, fish, plastic, sargassum, or mermaid girl. What is clear is that I have a deep love and passion for the environment and ocean and the people whose livelihoods depend upon it. From a young age, I was exposed to the sea, having been born and raised here, and coming from a family of fishers, divers, and spearfishers. I think I learned how to swim before I learned how to walk, kind of being thrown in the southeast coast by my grandfather. At 82 years young, my grandparents are still scuba diving, and they are one of the inspirations why I am here. At age 6, I had an experience while sailing through St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I saw a pod of wild dolphins. My heart rate increased and my eyes lit up. And from then I knew my life would surround the ocean. I still get that feeling now, so I know that I have chosen the correct path. So here I am, 24 years later. I founded Sustainable Caribbean, where, as Donna mentioned, I try to inspire individuals and society to make small changes that have a big positive impact. And then I started a new adventure last December, and some people call me an entrepreneur now, and I opened the Caribbean's first one-stop eco shop. But tonight, I'm talking with you all about plastic. So let's talk about plastic. But before we dive in, I just want to talk about some of my views on the blue economy, and I want to do a short exercise. Barbados is the blue economy. We are the blue economy. We have a culture deeply rooted in the ocean. So I want you to raise your hand. How many of you all eat fish? How many of you all go to the beach? How many of you work in tourism? How many of you rely on goods that come on ships on the ocean? Okay, so at least people have put up their hands for most things. We have one ocean. The ocean has no boundaries. It is the one thing that connects us all, from the air that we breathe to the food that we eat and the goods and services that it provides. So Barbados is the blue economy. We have an ocean space that is over 400 times larger than our land space. So now what does that have to do with plastic? And why is plastic relevant to you and to me? Plastic is everywhere, from the visible plastic on the side of the road to the invisible plastic in our food, in our soil, our water, and our clothing. I can guarantee that if you look around you, you will see some type of plastic. Forget these that I threw here, but you probably have plastic in your clothes, in your phone. We have a plastic problem. Plastic may be cheap and convenient, but it comes with a growing human health, environmental, and economic costs. There are 7 types of plastic that are actually identified by a resin identification code found on the bottom of packaging. And many of these contain chemicals and toxins that have been linked to cancer, to endocrine disruption, and even lowering sperm count. Is this what you wish to continue eating out of? As I mentioned, plastic may be cheap and convenient, but the cost of cleaning up plastic, the cost to our health and the environment, is what we should be focusing on. So it is estimated that 8 to 12 million metric tons of plastic enter the oceans every year. And 1 truckload of plastic is entering the ocean every minute. And a recent study that I read last week said that every minute, 100 million plastic bottles are produced. So in the last minute that I've been talking, 100 million plastic bottles have been produced, and only 91% of those are recycled. So plastic is not just a problem that is happening elsewhere in the world. It is happening right here in Barbados. In 2016, we imported over 100 million individual plastic bags. That's enough plastic to wrap around the island 368 times. So stop and study that. Plastic bags 368 times. In the same year, we also imported 150,000 pounds of plastic cups. That's the weight of 43 ZR vans. So stop and study that. Instead of ZR vans being rammed with people, think of them being rammed with plastic. And also in 2016, we imported 140,000 pounds of plastic straws. That's enough to fill 9 40-foot containers. So I think you may be starting to get the idea. We rely on plastic. Plastic is convenient, but we have a plastic problem. Much of the plastic that we use is single-use. It is disposable, used once and discarded. That plastic may have a lifespan of 10, 15 minutes, but much of it stays around in our environment forever. And when we throw plastic away, there is no such thing as a way. It must go somewhere. Often, that somewhere ends up being on the side of the road, blocking sewage systems and drains, contributing to increased flooding. It may end up in our gullies. Some may end up in our landfills. Unfortunately, some is ending up in our food and our water. A lot of the plastic is ending up in the sea. 80% of marine pollution is actually coming from land-based sources of pollution, whether wastewater, whether agricultural runoff. So once again, whether we talk about blue, green, orange, whatever the next color economy is, we need to see that all of them are closely related and interlinked. So plastic bags are making some corals sick. The same corals and coral reefs that are protecting our coastline from increased storm surges. The corals that provide livelihoods for many people, that provide the fish that we eat, that fuel our tourism product, and that have a huge biodiversity. It is estimated that by 2050, there will be more plastic than fish by weight in the world's ocean if nothing changes and if our current practices continue. So chances are that if you're eating fish, you're eating plastic too. And I'm not saying to stop eating fish and start supporting fishers, because that is most of the work that I do. I am saying to eat less fish and to choose more sustainable species, because overfishing and unsustainable fishing is a big threat to our fisheries. But what I'm saying is stop producing plastic. Stop putting it in. I have found sea turtle hatchlings with plastic rings around their necks. I have found a shark with a tire in its stomach, plastic nets, fishing line. Many of us, when we think of plastic, we may think of some of these things here. But fishing lines and abandoned, discarded, lost fishing gear is actually one of the biggest culprits of marine litter. What about cigarette butts? Cigarette butts contain plastic, and they're actually the #1 most littered item on beaches around the world. So, many marine species, seabirds, fish are being found with plastic in their stomachs. Many people would have seen a turtle with a straw up its nose, whales washing up ashore with their stomachs filled with plastic. In the documentary A Plastic Ocean, one 90-day-old chick had 276 pieces of plastic in its stomach. That would be the equivalent of you and I having 12 pizzas in our stomach. So I think if you didn't get the idea before, you get it now. We are in the middle of a plastic crisis. So what do you choose, planet or plastic? As a region, as in a country that relies heavily on our tourism product, there is hardly any beach that you can go now and not find some piece of plastic. In a recent study, the Caribbean region revenue from coastal tourism was US $57 billion. But we aren't going to have that tourism if we don't have a healthy environment and a healthy ocean. Globally, the cost to clean up plastic pollution is US $2.5 trillion. And that's just to clean up pollution. That's not the cost of associated activities, tourism, the threat to our fisheries. So as a region and as a country, I'll say it again, we rely heavily on our tourism product, but we are threatening it. However, it's not all doom and gloom, and I'm going to try and shift the story here and have a happy ending. So what is Barbados doing about plastic? How are we fighting the plastic crisis and committing to both preserving land on water and in the sea? If you haven't heard before, you're hearing now. Barbados is banning plastic. So from April 1st of this year, Barbados banned petroleum-based single-use plastic items. From July 1st, in just over a month and a half, the ban will be extended to the distribution, retail, and use of these items. So what that means is if you import these items currently, you can no longer import them. If you distribute or retail them, you can't import them. So this ban wasn't something that happened overnight. It was the work of many organizations and environmentally conscious individuals over the years. It was the work, the previous administration actually started talking about it. the current administration, and led by the Ministry of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, in collaboration with the Ministry of Environment and National Beautification, have pushed this ban. And under the Ministry of Environment Solid Waste Project, they have also been doing a lot of work. But what this ban signals for me is something much larger. It signals a conversation and action surrounding waste management, promotion of a circular economy. Can we have fines for littering, anti-littering campaigns, sorting at source? Many people see this ban as a huge problem, and then there were a small few that saw it as a huge potential. So this ban has great potential. Whether you are looking to use natural and biological-based resources, so we talked about sargassum seaweed, it's in all conversations coming up now. How can we potentially use that to replace some of this packaging? How can we go back to how people lived just 50 years ago? Do we need to go backwards to move forwards? Can we use banana leaves for packaging? Can we use different types of grass? Some of this is being done, but currently we're importing all of these. So can we manufacture them locally? We have people in this room, Joshua, who's going to speak next, Kimar and Mikhail from Oasis, doing work on sargassum. I recently got a group of interns, and some of them are doing work here at the University of the West Indies on bioplastics. So there is stuff happening. It's not to say that nothing is happening. But if you're not an entrepreneur or you're not a scientist, you can play a part in this as well. So, as I mentioned earlier, I opened The Crate, the Caribbean's first one-stop eco-shop. So I wish to challenge you all right now to 5 sustainable swaps before July 1st. If you aren't already doing them, start tomorrow. Start small and start with one thing, because it can get extremely overwhelming. So if you decide that you're going for a drink tomorrow, say no thanks, I don't need the straw. And say no thanks to the plastic straw and also to the paper straw. Because regardless of the alternative, Barbados has a littering problem. So these alternatives are not going to solve that. We need to create new mindsets. We need to change culture and shift how we currently think. So say no thanks to the straw, and a straw is just a small part of it. Carry your reusable bag when you go shopping. If you can, take your utensils. But also look at every element of your day, from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to sleep, and see how you can do something differently. So, are you brushing your teeth with a bamboo toothbrush? If not, you could switch there. What about the toothpaste that you're using? Does it contain microbeads, but that might be then getting into the water? What about the food that you're eating? Is it local? Are you supporting local farmers? Are you using pesticides? Are you composting your food scraps? So again, I'm talking about stuff on land, green, but what happens on land ends up in the sea. So look at your day, and I challenge you, as I said, to 5 swaps before July 1st. Just start somewhere and do it well. So our choices matter. It starts with you, and it starts with me. How can we be more responsible and conscious consumers? At school, I learned about the 3 R's, but now people are adding 2 or 3 more into the mix. So first, can we refuse? How can you say, no thanks, I don't need that? And then reduce. Do you really need to go and buy another shirt tomorrow or another pair of boots? And I'm not just talking about plastic, I'm talking about our lifestyle in general. So let's refuse things, let's reduce, let's reuse, repurpose, recover where possible, rot, which is composting. And then as a last resort, let's look to recycling. I ask you again, are we consumed by plastic? Do you all think we're consumed by plastic? Hands up. Or are we consuming plastic? Good, it's actually both of them, unfortunately. And what do you choose? Do you choose planet or plastic? What about health or plastic? Economy or plastic? Okay, so good, money. Money drives everything. So a shift is happening. There are things happening. There is positivity. So are you going to be part of the tide turning? Are you going to be part of the wave of change? Or are you going to be part of the wave of trash and continue living in a plastic soup? Thank you.